Okay, speaking again on forgiveness. This concept of forgiveness is a very, very difficult one for me, and maybe for you too. If you don't find it difficult, then I would consider that you are a great exception to the human race. And then we could have lots of other connotations which would attach to that, and we'll be asking why. So I'm going to be speaking through it as how I see this forgiveness thing. If somebody gets angry at his girlfriend in the pub and she leaves the boozer and he continues to drink and gets more and more angry all night long, and at the end of the night he punches somebody because he's so angry. And he's just got this aggression and anger within him that he wants to release from himself. And so how he releases it is by projecting it onto somebody else. And it's like, oh, I feel better after that. Because the energy has all subsided then, you see. If we look at that scenario, then we can say, oh, okay, this guy was drunk and the woman that he loved left him, and so it was just a beer, and you could find forgiveness for that. I could find forgiveness for that. It was a ridiculous, stupid act born out of your wild emotions and alcohol. And we know what happens. We can empathise with that. We've all done it. If a mad person comes into your house and butchers your pet with a machete, could we forgive that person? If that person is mad, then it's kind of like, even though it's so painful for me to accept and forgive that person, if I apply my rational mind to it, that person was insane. Wasn't acting like normal people act. Had no emotion, was a psychopath. Why he did that? There wasn't a psychiatrist on the planet that could work that one out. He just did it. Could we forgive that person? It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's getting more and more difficult. If that person wasn't mad, if that person was just pissed off because your dog's barking all the time, and one day this person jumps over the fence and butchers your dog, could you forgive that person? It's getting more difficult, isn't it? We knew that that person was generally a reasonable, rational person, but the anger got so strong within him that he couldn't see rationally anymore. He just grabbed his machete and thought, I'm sick of that dog, bah, 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 disturbing my peace. And so you look at him and you go, you're a rational thinking person. I can't find it in my heart to forgive you. You knew what you were doing. How can I forgive your objective? That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing, the essence of whether we can forgive or not. It's the objective. If politicians pass bills that enslave us, and if they, which they will one day, pass a bill to chip the human race, could we forgive them for doing that to us? For gaining that level of autonomy over us, for taking our sovereignty away, could we forgive them? I couldn't. Oh, I forgive you. You know, you're just acting out of greed and your own self-aggrandizement and your own self-powering, and you know, I can rationalise all these things, and you're it, and you're the epitome of it, and so, yeah, I know why you did it. Oh, I can forgive you. I've got a chip in me, and now I'm controlled electronically for the rest of my life. Could I forgive that? I couldn't forgive that. Even with this rational application. So again, it's another scenario, but it's difficult, isn't it? If somebody murders your child, somebody that is your life, it doesn't matter how much rational application you can put, could you find forgiveness? I couldn't. When we look at those scenarios and we look at what Jesus in this book is asking us to do, is that reasonable, Jesus? Or are you the son of the demiurge? Are you telling us this because you want to poison our minds, to make us more subservient and more in acceptance of any abomination that is going to befall us? Listen, people, this is what I'm saying about these books. When people will read them and go, oh, this is beautiful, oh, it's love, it's all love. And what these books do, they tell you that you are wrong. They tell you as a human being that your emotions and your rational thinking is wrong. And you shouldn't be thinking like that. You shouldn't have emotions about people killing people you love or animals that you love. You should forgive. And you shouldn't want to bring about retribution. You should let it go on. All pervasive. Let's have a look at this, people. Because it seems to me that this, A Course in Mastery, anything to do with this Jesus thing where you're forgiving, is a complete opposite to what it's dressed up to be. Because it's trying to suppress and crush the nature of the human being, the rational nature of the human being, where he wants to take retribution against somebody that's done them wrong. It's a perfectly natural and feasible thing to do. We cannot allow people to be doing these things to us, individually or as a society. What, just roll over? The politicians, yeah, it's because they're greedy, it's because they're indoctrinated, it's because they've been born into these bloodlines that think they're gods and think they're better than us. Oh, I forgive them. Here you go, yeah, chip me. Oh, I forgive you. Oh, fuck off. Come on, people, let's think rationally about this bullshit that we're served up all the fucking time. And what makes me angry is that just people swallow it every fucking second of the day. They'll swallow this bullshit. And then you've got all these new ages. Oh, forgive, all love, it's all love and light. It's not all love and light. It is darkness and light. It is love and hate. It is benevolence and malevolence. It is out there for you to choose. And if some want to choose malevolence over benevolence and act accordingly, then it is perfectly reasonable for us to judge them and to want to carry out retribution. And that's why we have courts, to stop people from doing what they so wish. Murderers and psychopaths. So, what is this forgiveness? This forgiveness only becomes feasible and reasonable when you look at the world as a holographic experience that you're having via consciousness. If you look at the world as a reality, forgiveness isn't something that we should be taking to heart very lightly. Because if we have this level of forgiveness, then it gives rise and reign to evil across the board. And what's happening now? In our societies, we've been told all the time that we're bad for thinking like that. And now we're even being told we're bad in this new age, postmodernistic era. We're bad for even wanting to judge somebody. God forgive me. I wanted to judge the person that murdered my wife. It doesn't make sense, people. From a humanistic perspective, it only makes sense from a manipulative perspective, where the people giving us this literature want to dominate us. They want to poison our minds. They want to create fucking backboneless automata which don't ever get angry, that don't want retribution, that don't want to judge. Because if we don't judge, then they can continue with impunity. Pedoing all of our kids, creating wars to reduce the population and all the rest of it. You see, what I do is I look deep into something. Not just the fucking superficial words. There's something more. Where did it derive from? What's the ulterior motive? What's the objective? What's the agenda behind what is written? There's always an agenda. Always. We can't trust nothing. We have to think free and broadly about everything. And look and dissect and rationalise everything. Because if we do not, you know where you're going. You can see where the world's going. Into this postmodernist era where nobody can say anything about anybody or anything that isn't what you are permitted to say. And this is why now Google only want one answer to one question. It's completely Orwellian. One answer. So there's just one answer to how the universe was created. Yeah, Big Bang, shut the fuck up. So there's just one answer to what we should believe in as a religion. Yeah, Christianity, shut the fuck up. So there's one reason where one answer to the scientific world that we should believe in. Yes, whatever they choose to tell you at any given time. Politicians, the same thing, shut the fuck up. You got any questions? You only get one question. We'll give you one answer. That's the world that you are running towards when you stop critically thinking. It's unfortunate in this day and age that we have to question absolutely everything. We can't trust nothing because we are in a soup of deception. The only thing that we remotely will be able to trust is our own sensibility. And that, unfortunately, on many occasions, is erroneous. How many people could really depend on their rational thought to derive any truth out of any scenario? How many people would think, I've got my own mind and I think it's this, and they're going to be wrong. They're going to be so wildly wrong because they don't have the facility for decent, rational thinking. All they have in their minds is a few answers to a question that was once posed, and they heard a few answers, and then they choose from that, those few, because they can't think of any themselves. And this is what gets me. My level of frustration with the vast majority of humanity. You can't find people that think critically. You can only find parrots. mindless parrots. So, I was asking the question about forgiveness and about judgment. Well, with the forgiveness, it only becomes applicable if you see the world as a non-reality. Because if you see the world as a non-reality, then what you're doing is you're going into self-protection mode. You know nothing's real out there. You know that this body's not even real. But you've got an existence going on which pertains to the body. And the body seems to be an emotional creature. And you can spend your whole life feeling bad within the body. And if you look for the answer, then you'll see that this badness deriving out of how the body feels is because of the environment that you're in and the way you're thinking. So move from that environment and stop thinking that way. And so if then we're going to get some sort of rational application to forgiveness, then I would exchange that word, forgiveness, I would exchange it to acceptance. Complete acceptance of the illusion or denial. Denial of the existence that we find ourselves in. Because ultimately it isn't a reality. It's just a total recall where you take a pill and you go on holiday and you have an experience. And you think it's so real. Just like an astral projection, just like a psychedelic experience, just like a dream. On and on and on. You think it's so real. This isn't any different, this reality here, to all those other realities. They're all part of the illusion. And so what I'm getting to in this video then, I'm trying to impress upon you the importance of looking critically at every single word and every single statement and every single paper, video or book that we listen to or read. One world is the face value of it. The other world is what's behind it. And that's a much, much deeper and interesting world. And a darker world. Where does this stuff derive? What is the ulterior motive? What is the agenda? Always people ask. What does anybody hope to gain from saying this? Creating this? Whatever it is. What does anybody hope to gain? Because there is always an ulterior motive. There's always an agenda. And so I'm just trying to think now. If I haven't made myself plain, have I reached any of you? Can you see this? That you shouldn't be accepting anything. Nothing at all. And just because within your rational mind you are told that you're wrong, doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that they know more and they're more wise and this, that and the other. It may be that way, but it may not be that way. It may be that you are waking up to the bullshit and you're going, that don't sound fucking right to me. I don't care how many people say it, it doesn't sound right to me. There's tests done in psychology. And the test goes like this. There's 10 people invited into a room. And on the board, somebody draws lines. And what they do is, 9 of the people have been told what's going on in this test. And they're going to be drawing lines, and some are going to be longer and some are going to be shorter than the others. And yet they are told to say every single time that the line is the same length as the other one. One of the people that comes into this experiment hasn't been told that, and so he has to think critically for himself. So they sit down all together. The person drawing on the board starts drawing a line. Then it draws another one and says, is that longer or shorter? And 9 other people go, that's longer. And then it may be that they look exactly the same to this person. And this person's going like, hang on, it's not just a little bit, it's not like it's my eyes gone fuzzy or something. No, it's visually twice as long. Are you people insane? But you see, when this happens, what happens is, you as an individual, you lose confidence in your own mind. And then you'll go, when the person asks you, is it longer or shorter? You'll say whatever they said. Because you take comfort in the mass. You'll take comfort in the herd. You'll take comfort in numbers. And you'll doubt your own sanity. This is what they're doing. They're getting us, each and every one of us, to doubt our own sanity. To doubt that we know anything at all. Because the vast majority of people are like these other 9 in this test. They're working for them to indoctrinate and poison your mind. And so, when you start looking at this world, and when you start waking up to it, it becomes very, very spooky. Because it seems so absurd. It defies all logic that you think, I must be mad. But no! I can reason, and I can test my reason many, many times. And I'll get the same result, like doing an experiment. I'm a reasonable, rational thinking person. What's the alternative to that then? They must be mad. Like David Icke says, the world is a madhouse. Because what they're doing, they're manipulating our minds to such an extent. They're telling us that up is down and left is right and black is white and all these sort of things. Just look at one prime example, people. And I only should need this one. The Bible. The Old Testament, an abomination. It's a heinous display of somebody that's supposed to love, says they love, but everything's a contradiction to that. It's all hate. You see? And they tell you that's a good God. He loves you. Come on, how many times have we heard it? But how pervasive is this book? How many people believe in it? Americans, you are mad with it. Okay, so most people, they're Christian and they believe in Christ. All right, that's reasonable. Because it isn't a complete contradiction in that book. It's a book of decent living. That's reasonable. But to believe that this man ever walked the planet, it's questionable, isn't it? It has to be questionable because you don't know. And all you're relying on what's been written. And we know that everybody around us is lying. They're perverting history right, left and centre. So just ask yourself, did he really exist? Okay, if he never existed, is the metaphor a good one? Are the words good? Because if the words are good, they feel good to me, then okay, I can use those. But don't have blind faith. Jesus Christ is coming again! Jesus Christ is going to save the world! Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ! This is how lots of American people go on about it. Jesus Christ in the name of Jesus Christ! Like fucking brainwashed automated puppets. Why can't you be more philosophical about it and just go, well, you know, the New Testament, it seems like it's a compilation of wisdom which would serve humanity if they had an adherence to it. You know, if they paid close attention to it, then it seems to me overall it's a good book. That's all we need. We don't need no blind faith and allegiance to anything. We look with our own rational mind at something and apply it to the world. I take deep breaths all the time, I really do, with the stupidity of the vast amount of human beings. And so, just getting back then to this forgiveness thing, is it really a good thing? If you are steeped in this material world, forgiveness isn't a good thing. It allows people to continue with impunity, to do whatever they want to you. So I would suggest that you wouldn't forgive. You deal with it rationally. But what we have to do is not carry the weight of it, where we can't sleep every night and we're agitated all the time because we're thinking about it, we're thinking about it, we're thinking about it. No. If you don't want to forgive somebody, I don't forgive you. And then forget it. Don't carry it with you. Tell that person, I can never forgive you, you bastard. You ruined that child's life. Now you'll carry the guilt. You'll carry the weight of it, knowing that I will never forgive you. Fuck you. And then free yourself of it. You see? Go on with your life. Knowing you've done a good thing. You've not been a coward. You've stood up for what you believe in. You stood up for what you consider to be right and wrong. Forgiveness is bullshit, people. And the only time, as I said in one of the other videos, that forgiveness is ever going to be of a benefit is if it enables you to sever yourself from this dream. Sever yourself from this terrible world and just bury your head in the sand and wait till it's all over, because it's only a dream anyway. And then you can live in peace. You can live in bliss, because you're in denial of all the boogeymen. You're in denial of all the nasty stuff that's going on. Chemtrails, oh, I forgive them. Politicians, oh, I forgive them. Murderers, I forgive them. Rapists, I forgive them all. Honestly, I forgive them all. Really? Then you're a cowardice bastard, not wanting to confront anybody about anything. So maybe your children will be raped and murdered. Is anybody going to have any sympathy? Is anybody going to be backing you up? Let's go get these bastards. Or are they all going to be going in turn? I forgive them. Oh, forgive them. This world's fucked. This world is proper fucked up. It's a proper fucked up, dichotomous, convoluted, duplicitous, twisted game that you could ever imagine playing in. That's what this world is. And when these people talk to you about forgiveness, they're talking to you about it from a different world. They're not talking to you about it from this world, people. They're talking about it from the world of pure bliss. And being in pure bliss, you're not in this world. You're not partaking in this world. You're walking around like you're in a patch of daisies, watching the butterflies and the bees. That's all you're doing, because you're in complete denial. If you forgive. So make of these videos then what you will. I try to explain in several different ways my view of this from a philosophical perspective. From the perspective of looking at the acquisition of knowledge, to learn about the etymology of the words. What do they mean? What are these concepts? How do these concepts play on our physiology? What's going on with the whole thing? It's not just superficial, people. It runs so tall and low and broad and every depth you can imagine, because it encompasses everything. It encompasses pure consciousness, which is what you are, it's what I am, and it's what we're in. So, if we can never work it out, I'll be the first to forgive you. Isn't that a contradiction? You see? I'll forgive you for believing in the illusion. You see? That's the only place you can forgive. When you become outside of the illusion.